everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have 5 brand new Dollar Tree DIYs for you guys. The last DIY, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that I think it might be a fail. I think the idea was on point and was there, but the execution didn't turn out the best. So I kept pushing through though, and I wanted to share it with you guys because like I said, I think the idea is there. But as I was doing it, I was thinking, wow, there's probably about 5 to 10 different ways I could do this DIY much better and much more efficient. But you know, once you're committed to a DIY, sometimes you just gotta push through until the end to see how it turns out. And I don't think it was a total fail. It doesn't look horrible, but it doesn't look the greatest. So anyways, I'll let you guys be the judge. Let me know down in the comments below if you think maybe I should retry this DIY in a different video and see how it turns out. So anyways, that's what I have for you guys today. Make sure you are subscribed to my channel before you leave, and don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. All right, let's get into the DIYs. For this DIY, I'm going to be recreating the elevated plant stands that you see everywhere that are super expensive out of a Dollar Tree pot and some plungers. So the first one I'm going to show you is the taller one. So I'm just going to remove the plungers from the wooden sticks, and then I just gave each wooden stick a good sanding where the stickers were to get off the sticker residue. So now I'm going to go ahead and flip the pot over, and there's already 3 kind of pre-drilled holes in the bottom of these pots. So I wanted to go ahead and push those through. I used a 3/8 drill bit. That obviously wasn't big enough for the legs to go through, so I switched to a 3/4, and that was perfect. I was able to screw each leg inside the hole with a pretty good tight fit since each of these legs were threaded. It worked out really good, and it was pretty sturdy just this way. But I wanted to make it a little bit more sturdy so that way the legs wouldn't wobble all around. So I went ahead and reinforced inside the pot with some hot glue around each leg. And then I took these round styrofoam circles from Dollar Tree, and I just placed some hot glue on the top of each of the legs and placed a circle on top of there, and that held it together nicely. I wasn't sure if I was going to paint this, but I wanted to take away the plastic look, so I mixed some white paint with some baking soda and gave this 3 coats of white paint. So I went ahead and made a second smaller pot with 3 more plungers. I cut 5 inches off of each plunger, off of the top of them where the threaded part was. So since I didn't have a threaded part on each piece of wood now, I had to use my 3/4 inch drill bit to just make each hole a little bit bigger in the second pot. A 1-inch drill bit was too big, so the 3/4 with just shaving off a little bit more was perfect. And then I just put my legs in and did the same thing as I did on the other pot with securing it with some more hot glue and then adding the styrofoam circle to the top. I also gave this planter 3 coats of the white paint with baking soda as well. I absolutely love how these turned out. I added some fake ferns and some fake spider plants from Dollar Tree to them. I wouldn't recommend adding any real plants. I think the weight of the dirt would make them collapse, but I love how they turned out. They look so high end, but so affordable to make. For this DIY, I'm going to be using 5 of these Hexagon mirrors from Dollar Tree. I needed a centerpiece for my coffee table, so that's what I'm going to be making out of these mirrors. I'm actually going to be using just the frames, not the mirrors themselves. So I went ahead and removed the backing and the mirrors off of the frames. And for the last one though, I needed a bottom to my centerpiece. So I went ahead and added a mirror back into the frame, but I faced it the opposite direction so that way the back of the mirror would be showing at the top of the frame, if that makes sense. Now I just needed to take off the little pieces that hold the mirror in place on the back of each of the frames. So I just used some pliers and pried those off. They were pretty easy to come off. They're just plastic, so they pop right off. Now I'm going to be placing each hexagon on top of each other. So I started off with the hexagon that I left the mirror in, and then I'm going to be adding another frame on the top of that. Now the back sides of these frames are open. So like the top of the frames are closed and smooth and the back sides are open. So I did every other one, if that makes sense. So I lined up with the first one, I lined up on top, like I turned the frame over so that the smooth side would be touching the other smooth side. And then for the other one, I flipped it over so the smooth side would be up and the open side would be the other way. Now this created some glue to seep through, unfortunately. So I used a sanding block to sand the glue off after I was done. Now I'm just going to take some black chalk paint and just go over it with one coat of black chalk paint to make sure everything is even and the hot glue doesn't show through. And that worked out really well. Now I just needed to fill this centerpiece up. So I took some styrofoam blocks from Dollar Tree and I hot glued those to the bottom on the inside. That way everything would be kind of heightened when I put it in there. Then I hot glued some moss down also to act as a filler. And then I have a ton of succulents that I've just collected from Dollar Tree throughout the years. And I just got that basket out and just started playing around with them and placing them inside the little hexagon planter that I made. I probably took way too long deciding on what succulents I liked in this planter, but I had a ton of different ones, so I really just needed to play around with them and see which ones I liked better and which ones looked the most realistic and didn't look too fake. So the whole arrangement will change when you see the B-roll footage, but I love how it turned out. I think it's perfect for my coffee table as a centerpiece. This next DIY, I'm going to use one of the foam boards from Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use some of the lightweight spackling. I have 3 jars of it from Dollar Tree. So I got this idea off of Instagram, and I saw a bunch of Instagrammers doing this with the spackling, and they typically use a canvas and they do like a textured painting. So that's what I'm going to try to do on this foam board. I basically just started taking the spackling and just wiping it on the canvas, making a thick coat, and then just making it textured and playing around with it until I got a look that I liked. You can add color to the spackling if you want this colored, or whatever. I just left mine white because I didn't know how it was going to turn out, so it was just an experiment. But I think if I did it again, I would probably add some color. And I just smoothed it on, and I just made sure when I wiped it and like created my texture that I didn't take any off. I let it dry overnight with some heavy candle holders on each corner so that way it would dry flat. The next day, I cut some scrap 1x2s in 4 pieces to make a frame. I stained those pieces with some special walnut stain, and then I just used hot glue to secure those pieces to the foam board. I know, hot glue, probably not the best to use, but I was in a hurry, so you could definitely use some wood glue and clamps, and that would probably work better and last longer than the hot glue will. So I'll probably go back and do that once the hot glue wears off, if it ever does. But for now, the hot glue worked fine. To hang it, I used a sawtooth hanger on the back, and I just hammered it in. Make sure you hammer it into the wood and you're not just hammering it into the foam board. And that was it. This next DIY, I'm going to be using some of these candle holders from Dollar Tree. They're pretty heavy duty. I don't know what they're made out of, but I picked up 3 different type of designs. That's what they had at my Dollar Tree. So with the first design, I have 3 of the same kind, and I just hot glued them all together. I took one and turned it upside down and hot glued it on top of the other one, and then the last one I just hot glued that on top of the other 2. And then with the other design that I had the 2 of the same of, I just hot glued that upside down on top of the other candle holder. And then with the last candle holder, I didn't do anything with. I left that one alone, so that way I'd have 3 different heights. And then I filled each candle holder with those succulents that I have so many of. I just hot glued them down to the tops, and I think this turned out to be a really cute piece of home decor. All right, we made it to the last DIY, and it all started with some yarn I got from Dollar Tree, some black and white yarn. And I decided I was gonna make a poof, you know, like the ones you just throw on the floor, put your feet up, sit on, whatever. So I decided to use an old pillow, and I just folded it in half and started in the middle of where I folded it in half, making my spiral with my white yarn. And that's probably where I made my mistake. I probably shouldn't have folded my pillow in half like that, because this just took so long because the yarn was super thin. So again, I really wanted to use this yarn, and I thought it'd be cute to make a poof with this yarn. Just not like this, because it was taking forever. So I started out with the white, and then I got tired of doing the white, so I ended up doing the black. And so I did kind of like, I was going to do a pattern. I was going to do white, then black, then white, then black. And yeah, I did, I think, 4 rows. I did white, then black, then white, then black. Then I got to the middle where I had folded the pillow and creased it, and it wasn't covering the fold. So I decided to look for some nautical rope, which I had 5 packs of from Dollar Tree. So I started hot gluing that around, and that worked out really well. So that didn't take long at all. If I would have had all nautical rope, I could have made a really cute poof, and that would have been great. But I didn't. I only have 5 packs, and it didn't get me very far either. So I used all 5 packs, and it got me about halfway down the pillow. And then I was going to, you can see here, I was going to go ahead and wrap the yarn, start again and start wrapping the yarn, and then I was like, no, this isn't happening. So I took the yarn off and I started cutting the pillowcase in half, so that way I would expose the bottom, and I took some of the stuffing out of it, so it ended up being a smaller poof than what I wanted originally. But that's okay because I didn't want it to take any longer than it needed to be. I used the extra pillowcase, whatever cover, to kind of stuff, make a lining for the bottom of the poof and keep all that stuffing in. And I just hot glued that pillowcase or pillow liner all the way around to the inside of where I had already glued my nautical rope, and then glued it together in the middle. And all in all, like I said, the idea was there. It's just the execution took a lot longer than I wanted it to. So I have some different ideas. If you guys want to see me try to tackle this again, let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching today. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Jessica Lynn at Home, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.